Today is Wednesday, December 30th, meeting of the Berlin Personnel Committee. As a preliminary matter, please note that the meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. This is Claire Pond, Chair of the Personnel Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me prior to me calling the meeting to order. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Sue Tarian.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I'm here.
Yes, you are. Yep. Tommy, you're right there.
There's a Tom in the audience. I'm guessing it's Tom. Might be your Tom.
Is that our Tom?
That's scary, our Tom.
Tom, is that you? You have to unmute yourself.
Oh,
There he is.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Margaret Nadowitz.
Margaret's here.
Okay. And got some guests and anticipated speakers on the agenda. Dave, I don't know if Dave Smith's joined us yet.
Dave's not here yet. Let me
Okay.
text him, make sure he's on his way in if possible.
All right, with a quorum of the board present, I call this meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. on Wednesday, December 30th. So the first thing that I wanted to go over on the agenda was I had sent out the minutes for, I'm finally caught up, yay. I had sent out the minutes for November 24th, December 2nd, and December 16th. And I sent out drafts so that you had an opportunity to take a look at them. Any thoughts?
I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I will second that.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Claire Pond.
Sue, I.
Tom, I.
Okay, great, thank you. So those were the minutes and, okay, any PAFs, Margaret, at all?
No PAFs this week.
Okay, great. The position reviews and the advertising. So when we approved last week's, when we approved last week's or a couple weeks ago, the job ad, what he meant to do, Margaret, was instead of it being grade 7, was he looking for a grade 6 or was it the grade 5 one?
It was the grade 5 one at,
Okay, for
I think it was
driver.
$19.64 an hour.
Okay, yep,
I think that was it.
okay.
Has he had any responses?
He's got a couple of possibilities.
Oh, good.
Beautiful.
Yep,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
And here he is now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Was that for the highway, Claire?
Yes. Yep.
I missed, so I'm trying to catch up.
Yep. That's okay. Yes,
Okay.
we had it was for a seasonal driver to help do the snow plowing and other things for Dave.
Okay. I think
Yeah,
we
it was
both
just
missed
it
that
was
meeting.
just a seasonal. Hey, Dave.
Sorry, I was under the impression the meeting started at 7.
It's okay.
Did I
You're
say
good.
that? If so, I'm sorry.
That's what my email said.
Really?
You're
I'm
good.
sorry.
You're fine.
That's me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Well, one of the reasons why we asked to have you present is that we'd like to to kind of hear your thoughts about the possibility of consolidating the cemetery groundskeeping and transfer station duties under your highway department. And I guess one of the biggest questions is that I have, and the other committee members can ask questions as well, was, what has been your experience in your past positions? And I guess I'm looking a little bit about the pros and the cons, especially for the cemetery piece. We're trying to look at that and trying to listen to everybody. And
So, some of the last two municipalities I worked in, cemetery came under the highway department. It was already established when I got there, so I didn't have really anything to do with putting it together. I think it makes sense. There's obviously going to be some personnel problems, and it'd be very challenging for us to do that now with the staff that we have.
that was going to be one of my other questions as well.
So I'm not so sure that I have two of the. Is this all that's on the meeting? Is everybody that's on the screen right here?
There's 4 attendees. There's Eloise, June, Molly, and Peg.
Okay, so I have two guys that are extremely going to be very resistant to taking on any more duties. That's my only concern. I think it makes sense to us.
But if the departments were combined, I think we are very realistic that there may have to be some new hires. Or could some of the skilled people in the other departments be cross-trained? If we're talking cemetery and transfer, could some of the transfer people possibly do double duty if they wanted to, but is that something that we should look into?
So it's a possibility, but it does create problems as well, because realistically, if we're going to add employees, they should be licensed to the point where they can, operate machinery and do other required tasks when they're not doing either cemetery work or transfer station work. It wouldn't make sense to hire somebody that couldn't do everything that's required on the days that they're not doing duties in the other positions.
Okay.
I'm not to say that, we would rely on part-time people as well to fill some of the gaps, but as far as, if you were looking to add another full-time employee, in my opinion, they should be capable of having licensing to do pretty much everything that we're doing now.
Right. So part-time and per diem people to do things like the mowing and the shoveling, summer help.
That works. I mean, the last 2 summers we hired summer help. It's been working okay. But the duties of transfer station and cemetery are going to, go along. It's not just a summer or seasonal job. So,
right.
I've mentioned a few times, it's only a matter of time before you're going to have to look into seriously adding another employee at the highway department just with the duties that we're currently faced with. Fortunately, those guys are very good at getting what they have to get done, but it's getting to the point where it's starting to becoming, it's very challenging.
And what about the facilities part of it? I know that's another thing that you've got on your plate. Is that starting to be stressed? Is that putting too much on your plate also? I think this is the time now to look at these things.
Yeah, we're full. I mean, we're full. We keep up with it. I mean, there are times when you have to pick and choose whether, getting the heat up and running or getting the roads plowed. You got to pick your poison there, but we've been getting it done. Like I say, the town is very fortunate with the crew they have. They're very good workers. And
no, I totally agree. And I'm looking more that there's too much on the plate. And I hear often at meetings, well, we'll have highway do it, or we'll talk to highway about doing that. So I think now's the time to really look at that situation. I think that's really, in a way, what we're trying to do
Well, I think it makes sense in the long term, moving the town forward is to combine everything so that it has, you have one source that can oversee and manage all aspects of basically the groundwork for the town. But it's going to require maybe some restructuring, and definitely, it's not going to be a cost saving measure by any means. I can pretty much tell you that.
Mhm.
So you don't think there'd be a cost savings at all in doing this?
I don't see how you can operate the transfer station any cheaper than the way it's being operated now, to be honest with you. I mean,
Okay.
but as far as, management and growth, I don't know how long you can still run with, some volunteers and some part-time help like it's structured now. I mean,
Yeah.
once again, the town has been very fortunate that people have stepped up and taken on duties that are really outside of their job descriptions and scope of work. That's just the way I see it,
Mhm.
No, I think that's the way we see it too, is that
Yeah.
the way it's running right now isn't going to work long term. You're
That's
running
correct.
out of people.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is something that can be done overnight or in the next 6 months. But is it something that should be started to look at as a goal in the future that we can maybe do the small steps and get there in the end?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely something we should look at and move towards that direction. It's not going to happen in a year or 2 years, but maybe, within the next 5 years, something could become put together to the point where, everything is under one roof. I'm not sure what kind of time frame you're looking at, but I don't see it happen in a year's time, honestly.
Hmm.
So those are a lot of those are, do you think there'll be any pros to doing this? Because most of those that we just talked about were cons in terms of, I was kind of looking to kind of weigh it out, what would be some of the pros and what would be some of the cons. Dave, do you think that it would, if we had enough people and everything, and that we could get the job done, according to the way you'd want to get it done for both the cemetery and the highway? I get a transfer station. I wasn't really thinking of at this point in time because I know that the right now we were kind of talking about the cemetery more than anything. But what are your
I'm sure that we could get the cemetery. It's not a really busy town with the cemetery with burials. I'm sure it's
Okay.
something we could handle. However, there's no way it's going to be done as cheap as George was doing it. I don't know what Bob gets for the time that he puts in there, but now this weekend burials, there's going to be overtime involved.
Okay,
So those are some things you really need to look at.
Mhm.
okay.
I don't even know what it costs for a burial in town. Do you know what the charge is?
It depends on whether they have to dig the little hole or the big
Yeah.
hole. And then, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so, I just went through it,
Oh,
Yeah, so it, plus there's a fee for this and a few other
Opening.
fees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's opening,
So it's
closing.
at least $1,000.
so and then there's the record keeping part of it. I mean,
Right, right,
who's doing that now?
So
right. Yep.
I
Margaret's
guess
excited.
that's a question. It seems to be a question for the cemetery commission, because what are the superintendent's duties? I mean, doesn't the superintendent do some record keeping and versus attending the burials to dig the holes? So, or not dig the holes, but I don't think the maintenance person is actually digging the holes, maybe the small ones, but they attend the burials and then we'll cover them up or something like that. So I think those are questions for the cemetery commission. But I just wanted to touch on cost efficiency versus operational efficiency. So I think there is a huge benefit operationally to have that consistency with oversight among the various departments rather than have fractured departments. And I think there's a huge benefit to the town and cross-training employees and making departments more flexible to be able to handle more things. Cost efficiency, Dave's right. It may be that there are no cost savings
Okay,
by doing that. It may be that there are cost savings in some areas, but not personnel, for example. So there are a number of things that would have to be looked at. But I also agree with Dave, this isn't a one, this is something that would have to be looked at over time.
okay,
I think there's a lot of people to be consulted in this whole process, including the gentleman that actually opens graves and does the digging.
right.
Because he
Yeah.
comes in, he has a lot of knowledge too about the process and, what's involved.
And then as well, the cemetery commissioner that's doing a
Right.
lot of the record keeping, a lot of the sales of the different plots, that sort of thing. So I think that's, in terms of being consulted, I think that all those that do the cemetery work need to be talked to so that we can understand exactly what it is that they do. And Dave, have you ever met with them or anything? Have you ever talked with them, or you just haven't, we've never gotten to that point of considering this in the past?
So the only person that has brought this to my attention is Paul Wheeler. And
Okay.
he talked to me a little bit about the commission and he was thinking about doing it. And, I didn't really have any information for him because I don't really know the whole structure. So.
Yeah, okay,
But I do. So I'll go back a couple in Leominster, we had a dedicated crew. It was at a foreman, an operator, a laborer, and in the summer they would hire part-time help. They had one cemetery, I think it was 44 acres, but it's a busy town.
yeah,
In Sterling, the highway department handled all the maintenance, the ground maintenance, and they dug the graves, but they didn't sell the plots, I don't believe. I think they had a commission that handled all that and all the record keeping. So they just did really the groundwork.
okay,
And it worked. I mean, everything got done. They had, I think there were three cemeteries there. Kind of like Berlin. One of them didn't get used. It was an old antique or old burial ground, but it
Mhm.
still required maintenance, So, but they had a half a dozen summer seasonal helpers that did other things as well as maintain the cemetery. They did, sidewalk weeds and whatnot and through the center of town. So there was a pretty good sized workforce to take on that task of maintaining the cemeteries.
okay, all right. So but that's something we can look at when and if we move towards getting closer to having you take over that. One of the things that we talked about at our last meeting was that the temporarily utilizing the highway department to assume some of the groundskeeping duties there as of January 1st. Now, what are your thoughts about that? I know that we talked about it at our meeting, and I think that the main reason was that we wanted to make sure that our vendor services fell under what the state rules are and conflict laws are. And so it was brought up at our last meeting that we may want to make a recommendation that the highway department temporarily oversee these. And what are your thoughts about that? Is that something that your department can do, has done?
Yeah, I wouldn't be against doing that. I mean, there's not a lot of maintenance required now until spring.
Okay.
Occasionally we help Bob. If a tree comes down in the cemetery, we kind of go and help him now anyway. But once spring comes along, if we can hire some seasonal employees, that would take a little burden off of my guys, and they could still do their normal routine. And, you know, we don't need a foreman, to be honest with you, weed whacking a cemetery. So that's where the, you know, the part-time help
Okay.
budget that I put in for would come into play.
All right.
Plus, the cemetery must have some type of budgeted money for maintenance as well. That, you know, are they capable of hiring, you know, under that budget, hiring a seasonal employee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's definitely, it's something I would not be against doing that until something firm or in concrete can be put into place.
So the $1 million question, Dave, is this something you think is a good idea to pursue? And like we said, small steps, look in the future, not tomorrow.
I do think
Or is it,
I do think it's something that's good to pursue, and I'm going to be, you know, somewhat greedy here because I'm looking at it. I can hopefully get a full-time employee out of this, so they can, you know, share some highway duties as well as do, you know, cemetery maintenance. This time of year, we can use them for plowing, snow removal, tree work. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Okay.
well, groups of the part-time employees that we have to hire now for those things, the cemetery, groundskeeping and the plows, it is something that should be considered, the whole group of them, to see if we can make it work and more equitable for the town.
Any other questions? Margaret?
Well, so I was curious to know about next conversations with the cemetery commission to see, you know, if the personnel committee wants to recommend highway temporarily, you know, taking over the duties. The way I'm looking at what has to happen with the cemetery commission, at least temporarily, and Barry and I have talked about this, we're going to have to do a procurement, at least a short-term procurement, because that's been missing. That has to happen. So this gap of time that you're talking about might be very, very short, depending on that procurement. Then we have to look at length of procurement. I mean, is something, are there going to be more permanent changes made down the road with groundskeeping, you know, oversight of groundskeeping at the cemeteries, or will this remain a contracted service? But for now, because of the conflict of interest law and the procurement law issues, we at least need to act on the procurement and have, and hopefully Dave would be willing to fill in at least temporarily here in the winter time where there's really not much to do there, just in case something has to happen.
And we need to take the time to look at those job descriptions that we were given and actually come up with a real description.
Mhm. Oh, Eloise has her hand up. Claire, would you like me to?
Yes, if you could.
Okay.
Hi, Eloise.
Greetings.
There she is. Okay.
I just had a question. You're talking about cemetery and the Board of Health because they run the transfer station, but I don't see them on the meeting. And I just find that very odd.
Well, I think the whole reason in our agenda item on the meeting was just to ask Dave what his thoughts were and whether this has occurred before. That was like the first step in this whole process, to try and take a look at whether it's something that he might, we wouldn't want to invite everybody and get everybody all worked up until we know that Dave thinks it might be an okay idea.
Well, Dave would go along with it if you gave him enough money to buy somebody,
Right.
to pay somebody.
Sounds that way.
Well, I mean, that's being realistic.
Right, right.
I just found it odd. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Well, it was on the agenda.
I attended your last meeting by mistake.
Oh,
Found it odd then that, once again, you're talking about other departments, but the other departments aren't at your meeting.
And Louise, I believe the Personnel Committee will call them to the table, will ask them to come to the table when they prepare to make a recommendation. I don't mean to speak for the Personnel Committee, but I think that's the intent.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but then it's a little late.
I've spoken with both of the other departments already. So they are aware of the discussion, but
I thought when I first came to Berlin, Phil Wheeler he put the dirt over the trash before it was a transfer station, and I thought it was under highway, but I could be wrong. And then the Board of Health took it over. Well, have a good evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So when you say procurement, Margaret, do you mean like an RFP out there for contracted individuals and
it would be
vendors?
it would be a request for quotes, because what we've seen is that the amounts paid to the individual have exceeded the threshold, the procurement threshold,
Right,
which
right.
gets into the request for quotes territory. So there is a procurement required.
right. Okay. And who does that? Do you work with the cemetery commissioner to do that?
I've talked with Barry about that, and I am going to help prepare the procurement on that.
Okay, great.
If it turns out that the same person, the same individual who is doing it is the low quote, we would have to then take steps under the conflict of interest law to allow that relationship to continue.
Okay,
And that would involve the select board.
all right.
Okay.
Okay, I understand that a little bit better now. I wasn't sure exactly. So the reason that we are asking Dave to help us with temporary oversight is so that we can get the procurement and conflict of interest piece underway.
We need to do that, yes.
Yep, okay. All right.
Because
Dave, do
as
you-
of December 31st, the vendor services are no longer allowed.
Right, right.
We'll be there. Highway will always be there no matter what. So we may bitch a little bit, but we'll still do it.
Any other thoughts, Dave, while we have you here? Anything you wanted to bring to our attention?
No, I just, depending on how much responsibility that the town is looking to put on the highway, I know there's, I'm pretty certain there's some certifications and licensing that need to get done if we're going to, assume everything, burials and all. I do have a very close friend that manages the cemetery division in Pittsburgh, and I did call her today and talk with her a little bit, and she forwarded me a bunch of paperwork that I haven't been able to go through yet. But she did say that if I needed any help or assistance with trying to put anything together, that she would be more than happy to assist. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry. Tom, you can unmute.
Thank you.
There you are. Tom, we're getting I'm hearing crackling from the audio. So that's why.
Me?
Apologize.
Yep. Yes.
Hold on.
Tom, we got to get you a camera.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, God. I'm using
Oh,
my
your video
phone.
shut off.
I don't know. I'm not touching nothing. I'll lose you like last time.
All right. So right now we're in a temporary situation, and we are working also with the cemetery commissioner on helping to coordinate some of the processes as well. Is that correct?
I'm going to be working with the cemetery commission on the procurement.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I think we should put those job descriptions. We need to put those job descriptions on our next meeting.
Okay,
I do have a question for Dave.
okay.
I'm
Dave?
listening. I'm listening.
Okay, your ideal if it was taken over, would 2 guys satisfy you, or would you need 2 and part-time? That's what
No, I think one and part-time would be sufficient.
okay. Well, I'm saying if both got thrown at you at once, would you need
Yeah.
2?
No, I think you could do it with one. I think you could do it one, and if both cemetery and transfer station, you might be looking at 2 part-time people.
Okay.
You know, I've never been to the transfer station when it's open, so I don't know how it's managed and operated.
Go there on a Saturday. But would you change the hours at the transfer? Like most towns are open, closed Monday, Tuesdays, that run operational like this, a small town. Run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And they do like, that's how it goes, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A lot of towns run that way. That's the only issue that I would have, because right now it's open what, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Right.
So if you open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's one guy, basically. That's what I'm saying. But that's how most towns operate their transfer that are full-time. That's the issue.
Well, we
Yeah.
could definitely look at the hours and you know, that's something we could put out to the town and see what hours better suit the residents.
Exactly, that's the
Right.
thing. Saturdays
Yep.
definitely, you have to be open on a Saturday. But I looked at like Southborough, and that's how they operate theirs. But also they haul their own trash. We sub it out. So there's different options, different towns. I'm just looking ahead, and I want it done, but done the right way.
Well, that's way ahead.
Right.
I know. Sorry.
Okay.
Through the chair. Okay, so for your next meeting, would you like to talk with Barry about the job descriptions?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
so Barry could come. As far as Board of Health and Transfer Station, I have had conversations with the Board of Health Chair, and I just don't know whether the Board of Health would be prepared at that point to talk with you about any kind of future, transition or consolidation of operations under highway or anything. But I have had the initial conversations with him too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good. I think we can kind of concentrate on the cemetery piece right now, if that works for the committee. Sue and Tom,
Yep.
Yes, I totally agree with Dave that this is something that, yes, in the long run may be very good for the town.
yep,
We have to do it slowly.
Yep.
And make sure it gets done right.
that's right. All right. Well, thank you, Dave. Thanks so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks. And if
Hey,
I
don't
think
put
of
those
anything,
clouds away, Dave.
No more snow, Tom.
Sunday.
Have a good night.
All
you
right, thanks.
too. Thank you.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year, Dave.
Happy New Year.
Is Sandy waiting?
I'm promoting her to panelist
Oh,
now.
beautiful. Good. Hi, Sandy. How are you? You gotta unmute yourself.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming.
Well,
Um,
thank you for
Sandy.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me.
And you were going to kind of go over your final report here with us, your final draft report, I should say.
Yes.
And I'll let you have the floor.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I wanted to, did you all get a copy of it?
Yes.
I have a
Yes.
copy of it, okay. And Margaret, did you want me to pull up the web portal or no?
If you'd like to do that to show the personnel committee around, that would be great.
Yeah, I would like to do that. So, can I,
Oh, I hope you can.
oh, if I
Can you
could
share
share the screen,
Do you have that option to do that?
it says share screen.
Okay, yep. So you click share screen and you'll pull up your web portal.
What do I do, whiteboard or share or?
You click on share screen,
Yeah,
and do you have the portal up already on your computer?
no, I can pull it up. I was gonna,
Okay,
want me to pull it up or?
yeah, if you pull up the portal, before you share the screen, just have it open on your desktop, and then,
Let me do that. Hold on.
okay.
Exit full screen. All right, so I'll just, yeah, so that way. Okay, so let's see, I'll go to. Okay, so let me, all right, so now what do I do? I hit share screen?
Now you hit share screen and you should see that portal on your, yep.
Yeah,
There
there we go.
You got
Very
it.
good, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to the report, you have a lot of other information. So I wanted to go through this with you because part of the reason of creating the portal is so you can have the tools to maintain the system going forward. And I apologize about my speech. I've been having some serious dental work done. So, but anyway, so you'll see if you click on any of these categories, you have the market data. There's some economic indicators. The ERI data is data which is composite data throughout, Massachusetts entirely. So you just click on that and you click on a link and it brings you to all the cloud data for, sort of a statewide composite. And this is nice. Let me just bring one up for you to see. This is nice to have for additional benchmarking on a statewide basis, in addition to the custom survey. And then if you hit download, you can download, anything that you need. And everything on the web portal you can download. Of course, the market data for the custom is in the benchmark comparative data, and I'll just pull that up for you. So while the report only has a summary, you do have the Excel with all of the benchmark communities included. And this is nice to have if you need to update it in the future. I know there was a lot of back and forth about the communities, and we ended up with a large number of communities, and we basically looked at the average. So there was some that you might have thought was high or some that were low, and in the end, it all kind of averaged out. And I can show you that on some of our graphing that we did. So we've got all the job descriptions are in here, and I heard you talk about those. We have the final report, and then the graphs. The graphs are interesting because, it really shows a picture of not only how you compare to the average, but how you compare to every community. And that's why we call these the floating graphs. And, you can see is it's sort of like a rank order thing. And I know there was some talk about, let me just, I know there was some talk about Hudson being really high market data, but when you look at the floating graphs by, it's not always the case on every single position. In fact, in some cases, Hudson is quite low compared to some of the other communities. So, sometimes when you see it in numbers, you see it one way, but then when you see it graphically, you see it another way. So that's what's really nice about the floating graphs, because you can see with every single position, you can see exactly where Berlin stands, compared to those communities that had comparable data. So this is very interesting. We gave you some helpful related checklists and resources. Our rating system is here, including our rating tool. And this is nice for you to have if you need to rate a position in the future. You just simply click on this rating program, and you just so I just wanted to show you how you do this. So so say you needed to re-rate a job, maybe the knowledge, training, and education, which you might want to change that for whatever reason. So if you make it a 3, it changes the totals automatically, and then it changes the composite for you. So it really is very nicely computerized for you. So that way, if you need to make any changes, if you need to update, positions or add positions, you can do it in a more computerized format, which will be helpful for you. And then, of course, for sharing with department heads, I have it in a PDF. I mean, the rating program is really for you to use, but the PDF is something you might want to share with department heads. I want to make you aware of minimum wages that are coming. This is important. January 1, it goes up to $13.50. January 1, 2022 goes up to $14.25. And then by 23, it goes up to $15 an hour. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Oops, hold on a second. Here we go. And we have in here all the cost estimates by employee. And that really is an estimate for you. There may be some discrepancies in the estimated costs and some things that you need to consider, such as longevity or, performance, or, some other things. And there may be some costs that are just too expensive for you to do by a position in one particular year. So you might want to do it over a couple of years. You also have the position analysis questionnaires and instructions and the PowerPoint presentation. This web portal is for, I'm going to get out of this now, actually no, because we want to bring up the report. This web portal is for the personnel board and the town administrator for managing the personnel for the town, but it's not for the general public. So I just wanted, the only thing that's for the general public is the final report. So I just wanted to point that out. It's sort of your working tool. So, and you wouldn't want just anybody working with it. So this is the draft report. I'll go through it with you. Which should start with just introducing the consultant team again. It was myself and Buzz who helped with a lot of the interviews, and I came and did the orientation in person. Tony Teresi helped us with the compensation analysis, and then Liz worked with me on the job descriptions, and Nico worked on the data visualization and a lot of those graphs that you see online and helping to create the web portal. So the table of contents tells you what's in the report, the introduction, project report, classifying and compensating positions, implementation and other recommendations, the conclusion, The job descriptions are submitted electronically. You can get them through the web portal, but you can also get them through the share file that I gave to the town administrator for the job descriptions. And those are only submitted electronically because they are always changing. Rating manual and the ratings are in there. The position analysis questionnaires were submitted electronically. And in this report, you have the proposed compensation and classification plan, proposed classification plan, summary ratings, compensation comparison charts. And that's where the compensation comparison charts is really a very useful chart because it takes Berlin and compares it to the market, and then how the recommendations kind of tie into the market. So that's a very helpful chart. All the comparative salary data, and then some economic indicators for Berlin that we got primarily from the Department of Revenue's data bank. That was very helpful. So the introduction is just explains the scope of services and what it was that we did. We had the organizational meetings, and then we had orientation meetings and the job analysis. And the interviews were all, done online. Once we got into this pandemic, everything just kind of got reshuffled. And we just continued to work. But we were getting readjusted, as you were, to the new environment that we had to work in. So we did all the interviews online. And ever since, I've been working with the town, electronically. And we came up with some draft documents, and you had a chance to review them. We got some input. I don't know if they still need to be tweaked a little bit, but that's why this is still a final draft, but it's pretty close to final. But if there's any, additional changes, this would be the time. And then the final presentation of this report. So you will have the classification plan, compensation plan, comparison charts, all the market data, and the job descriptions. And those are all FLSA classified, and all the job evaluation material. So we looked at all the municipal departments, and I know it's my understanding that you have one department that's going to unionize now. But for purposes of this study, we still included them because we did study the jobs, and we thought we would just include them. And if in the end you want to take them out of this report, that's okay. I think the data would be helpful to everybody anyway, as well as the job descriptions. The comparable communities that we used were Air, Bolton, Boxborough, Boylston, Harvard, Hudson, Littleton, Maynard, Northborough, Paxton, Shirley, Stowe, and Sterling. And then in a couple of instances where we really didn't have good data, I think it was like the fire marshal, if I recall, we did look at a couple of other communities. I know Hopkinton was one, and I can't think off the top of my head, but there were a couple of other communities, maybe Milford. So this talks about the methodology, what job analysis is, and job evaluation. Job analysis is the process of doing a job audit and understanding what the different jobs are in the community and what their essential functions are, and gathering all that information. Job evaluation is when we rate and rank the jobs based on a variety of criteria. And we have the rating manual in here, which I will discuss in a little bit of detail a little later. But, we want to look at, the nature of the work, the essential functions, the level of the work, the job requirements, the job qualifications, and the work conditions. Those are all part of the job analysis, and that's what produced. And it's very comprehensive because we do the PAQ, everybody filled one out. Then we complete the interviews. And then after that, we write a draft job description, and then we put it in a final. So it's it's a very thorough process, and employees have input into the process, which makes it very nice. The job evaluation looks at establishing the correct rank order of groupings of jobs and to establish a relative distance and to provide an objective measurement. I'm glad you have all the points now, because it might make a little clearer to you why one job might have rated higher than another job. And then I know in a few cases there were some recommendations, and we may have agreed with you with some, but on others we may not have, based on the rating. But in the end, it's your decision how you like the scale to look. The rating factors includes physical environment. This is a factor that measures the totality, of the surrounding circumstances that you work in, basic knowledge and training and education. And that could be not only the scholastical education, but, there might be somebody like a mechanic who is a trade, has a craft or a trade, and they would get extra points for that, even though, and then there's, problem solving skills, physical skills, experience, interaction with others, confidentiality, occupational risk, complexity, supervision, and all the areas of supervision, judgment, and then accountability. So those are the factors that we use to rate all of the positions. All of the positions were rated using the same manual. And, we've used this manual in many communities your size. And you have a custom grade determination scale. And based on the total points, that helps us to determine where a position will fall on the classification plan. Sometimes, however, though, the market might be very different than what the grading is. And so we have to take that into consideration. So this is a balance between the internal equity of the job and the external equity as well. And a position can sometimes move up a grade or down a grade if it's a better fit in the organization and it makes more sense. Because heaven forbid if we didn't use common sense in the middle of all this data and statistics. So we have to use common sense. So the data is FY20 data, and then we applied a factor to make it 21 data on the salary schedule that we're recommending. And this just gives you a definition of what the different percentiles are. And so getting to the some of the recommendations, talks about the initial placement of the current employees. You want to put an employee on the scale not to cut their wage. You don't want to put anybody below what they're currently making. Green circle means if an employee falls below the entry of the range, then you want to bring them up to that entry as soon as possible. Red circle means if you have an employee that might be making above the recommended range, and we do not recommend that you cut their salary, but you just hold it at that level until retirement or separation. Usually you see that with employees who have been there a very long time and their salaries have gone up. Cost of living versus the range movement. This is important. In this case, we developed a step system. And so it's up to you if you want the steps to be tied to performance. But how an employee moves between minimum and maximum has to do with performance or longevity or some other distinguishing characteristic. But cost of living is a factor that would be applied to the whole salary schedule. And that's different than so you have the total increase of the plan, and then you also have the individual movements. And that's what a cost, that is what a salary adjustment would include, both what we like to call the RAF, which is the range adjustment factor, and the movement increase factor, which is based on merit or step increase. Certainly just because you have steps doesn't mean they have to be automatic. You can tie it to a merit or performance system. So having this classification plan updated, especially having done the job analysis, will help towards achieving your fundamental adherence to the Employment Pay Act, which is required by mass law. And this is just, one step in that endeavor. You obviously have to look at all of your pay equity when considering internal equity, such as your benefits and how employees are hired or how they move throughout the ranges and so forth. We were charged with developing a structure by which you could work with. Vacancies, it's a good time to automatically review positions at this time. And, you want to update the plan periodically to review positions. If there are any union positions included in this group, like I said, I know that you had one group that was unionizing. Of course, you would have to go through the collective bargaining process. It was not within our scope to develop an appraisal tool for the town of Berlin. But it might be good to develop that, and maybe you'd have one that's more objective based for the management level, and a uniform criteria system that's more commonly used, suited to positions where employees consistently perform the same type of work on a fairly regular basis. There's a description of individual wages, salaries of a new, what do you do with a new employee, a transfer to a lower grade, promotional increases, and so forth. So, overall, we found that, Berlin was maybe at or below the average for positions. And, so this would be a good plan to at least bring everybody up to the average. We benchmarked against the average. It's important to do that. I mean, we are now, I know, in very uncertain times, but believe me, it's still difficult to hire for municipal jobs. And I'm sure Margaret will tell you that. I mean, it's still, they're not walking in the door, so you want to be competitive and be ready too when we do, come out of this pandemic. So I think I went over the main things with you. I wanted to show you the salary schedules, the attachments. It's your typical step system include, I think the range is about 27% from minimum to maximum. And there are 13 grades. The first couple of grades are not used at this time, but you might want to use them in the future, depending, if you hired a very low level position. And this is the classification plan that we developed. And we grouped those positions with similar work response, I guess, similar type value in their jobs together, and using our rating tool. And this is a summary of the points, but you have on the portal the detailed points. And this is that comparison chart, which I think is one of the most helpful charts in the whole study, because you can see where you currently are, what the average was. Then we added, like I said, we factored it up by a 1.5% COLA. And then, so you have Berlin's FY21, the average of the 20, and then factoring it up to by 1.5, and then our proposed range, and then the proposed grade. And then you have the current, on the other side, you have the current grade. And then this ties into also, if you look at, assistant town clerk, you can go back to line 48 of the data, and it's easily matched for comparison. This is your old scale. And, so you can see that, let's see, your old scale went up to 39.84. before, the new scale, where is it? Goes up to 40, in the 40s, 45. So you had a little bit of compression going on with your current scale. So this, you know, expanded the ranges somewhat between the grades. And here you have 10 grades. So that was your old scale. That's your 2020. And here's all the summary market data. And I've gone over this data with you before, but you can see you know, where there's a minus, that means a position is woefully, you know, below the market. So typically, if it's within 10% plus or minus, it's okay, it's within average. But when you start seeing like 21 or 17% or 26, that means it's off of the market, you know, quite a bit. So it really was all over the place when looking at, I mean, you had some jobs that were really below the market a lot, and then some that came within the range and others that were somewhat high, you know, but, you know, there are distinguishing, you know, situations from one town to the other. And then we have all the ERI data here attached as well. This data is supplemental data. So I just wanted to explain, it's not included in the averages, but it's just good to have additional data whenever you do this type of a study. We happen to like the Economic Research Institute, and we use them a lot for our supplemental data. And then at the very end of the study, we have all the graphs, you know, from these come from the Department of Revenue, from their Division of Local Services, and they do a nice job analyzing, you know, we have the population, the EQ, you know, you can see how the value of your town is going up, you know, since, you know, in the last 10 years, last 8 years. And, you know, I'm sure you have a lot of building and things going on. And, you know, the unemployment it's hard to tell right now with the unemployment, but, you know, it looks like the labor force has gone down a little bit. You know, that could be from the pandemic, but so that's the report. I know we have limited time, so I thought maybe what I could do now is just, maybe we could take questions. I could take questions from all of you. I'll do the stop share. Yeah, so I can see, and I could just take some questions. Now, this is just, all of this work, which was a lot of work, was just a paid class study. You also will be getting policies very shortly. So that will probably be another meeting. I would recommend that we have another meeting that's just dedicated to the policies. You know, maybe by the next personnel committee meeting. So I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I know I went over it very quickly, but I hope you do take the time to go through the web portal and see everything in a lot of detail.
I think it's a wonderful report. I started reading it this afternoon. I'm sorry, Sandy, I didn't get a chance to go through the whole thing, but I think it's very methodical in terms of the way you described your team and how you did everything. And I think that's really important that we as an oversight committee and our employees, that they understand the work that went into this and the process that went into this. Of course, they did a lot of the work in helping you, in speaking with you and going through the job descriptions and everything. So kudos to our town employees as well for doing all this for us.
I love data. So this is just chock full of it.
Yeah.
Yes, we are in the data world now, data and graphs too.
Yeah.
Everything.
And I especially love seeing the data points in the graphs when you hover over
Yes,
those graphs. So
those are our
that's
floating
really-
graphs. That's a new thing that we do now with all of our studies.
yeah, that is great.
Unfortunately, you can only get them through the web portal though, but I think you can, I think you can save one as a PDF, I think, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, until I get through the entire report, I don't have any questions yet, Sandy. But I do understand how it works and the methodologies that you used. Sue or Tom? Sue, do you have any questions?
Honestly, I have a lot of questions, but I'm like you. I haven't had time to really
digest it.
to digest it. I have like, very simple things like the grading system, how I think 4 of our administrative assistants are at 1 grade, and then we have another admin at a higher grade. And so I have really simple questions that I think after we go through the whole thing,
Mhm.
I'd kind of like to, just get clarification.
Sure. What you could do is pool all your questions together. This is what I usually tell my clients, pool them all, put a memo together or something, or an email, and list them all in one shot. If I get everything together, then I can respond rather than a little bit here, a little bit there. You know what I mean? Then it gets all confused. But if I can get them all together, either questions or changes that you want, sort of like in a memo format, that would be great.
Okay,
Then we can answer your questions and make any edits that need to be made to the report.
okay, great.
Okay, but those kinds of questions I can write on the list,
Yes.
Right,
correct?
right.
Okay,
Yes, of course.
I'm just, okay.
So there are, yes, you could write on the list, and that would be good.
Because yes, I do have a lot of little red marks for how much I started to read, but I didn't have the time to do the whole document.
I think too, you want to double check Berlin's numbers because there were a couple of revisions that we went through, and I'm pretty sure we got everything
Mhm.
correctly, but I just want to make sure, just one more time, look at those numbers, make sure that we're using the correct Berlin numbers,
Okay,
Right.
Doesn't hurt
All
to
right.
double check that, yeah.
yeah. Anything else from anyone?
Nope,
Margaret?
I agree with you.
Okay,
Joe, I'm happy to gather the personnel committee members' questions and compile them in a memo form and
Okay,
send
great.
them off to Sandy. I'll do the same with the select board. I shared the draft report with the select board, and I will take their questions and compile them as well.
okay. Beautiful, thank you. Well, thank you, Sandy, very much, and thanks for all your work on this. This is wonderful, and getting into the portal will be great too, to just go in and take a look around and thank you.
You're welcome, thank you, and hopefully very soon you'll have the policies up there too, so that'll be good,
Perfect. Oh,
so.
Thank you very much, Sandy.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, we'll
Bye-bye.
talk
Bye.
soon.
Thank you very much, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, let's see if there's anything else on our agenda. Margaret, did you have anything else that you wanted to bring up on the agenda before we?
I have absolutely nothing, nothing in addition to what we discussed tonight, so.
Committee, do you have any further agenda items
Oh,
before we?
somebody's got their hand up.
Okay,
Molly has her hand up. All right, hold on, Molly.
okay.
Okay, Molly, if you just unmute.
I was just wondering if there's a time, if you're going to give it to the employees to look at and answer questions from us, if that's part of the plan.
I think Sandy actually, this was her preliminary presentation to personnel. I think Sandy plans to actually do another go around with employees. And so I think she's going to be doing another meeting with employees, Molly.
Okay,
Okay.
good to
Did
know.
say that. She said that she would get the final report and then do a presentation with employees.
Mhm.
Great, good.
Okay,
All right.
All right. Any other discussion? So, Tom?
A lot of
Anybody
reading to do this weekend.
else?
That's a
Yeah.
lot of, but I
It's a
do think
long
we,
weekend, Tom. There you go. Well, hearing no further discussions that need to take place, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
I'll agree with you, ladies.
Any further discussion on that?
Sue, I.
I'd like to.
I.
I was going to say,
Aye.
no, I don't want to adjourn. What can we?
Yes, you do.
Happy New Year to everyone. And